My current goal is to create a green wall around the whole perimeter of this food forest. And I actually got a little bit of hope over the last couple of years. I think we end up in this cycle of 2 years dry, 2 years wet, and we're on the second year of being wet. So we planted these last year and they actually survived without a lot of maintenance, which is unusual. But I had a bigger success than this. Let's go look at it and then we'll get back and talk about this. Well, here's an example of success, and this one was actually free. Probably, I don't know, 4 years ago I made Mustang grape wine. And after the first mash, that's where you put all the grapes in a 5-gallon bucket, and it's got natural yeast on them. You just let it sit and do a first ferment. After that, you juice it, squeeze out the juice, and make wine. Anyway, I took that mash and I threw it down here at the fence line, and everything turned out great, and I'm really excited about this. But if you look, we've got Mustang grapes everywhere. It's going to be a good harvest. What I like about this is it's all at my height. I mean, it's definitely blocking the view onto the property. There's some voids, of course, but they'll start filling in as we get further down. You can see where it goes down to the ground. So that was free, and I've attempted it at the other place. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what happened after that is, now that the birds come over here and eat the grapes, they're actually pooping, and the result of the poop is native blackberries. As you can see right here, I haven't had a crop of them yet, but I think any year now, maybe next year, this will be a combination. And around Mother's Day we're picking blackberries, and around 4th of July we're picking Mustang grapes. As I'm walking back to the terrace, I just wanted to point out, this is a gate, and the other good thing about these Mustang grapes is we'll come back and cut the vines that are going across the gate, and we feed them to the sheep, and they love it. I did attempt Mustang grape seeds out here. They didn't take, or we'll take a walk and see if any of them did come out. But the difference was I used a steam juicer to make juice rather than, fermenting it for mash. The ferment process, just so people know, if you throw a peach on the ground, it's going to start fermenting, and it's a protection for the seed. So when I mashed the bucket and threw it down, all the seeds were preserved and it sprouted. Steam juicer, of course, going to get the seed up to 212 degrees, probably killed them. But I did take the pulp after steam juicing it and threw it along here with no great result. But this is honeysuckle that I planted last year, and it made it to the top of the wall, which I'm pretty excited about. That gave me hope, and we had another wet year this year, so I made some other plantings, and we'll go take a look at them. I planted table grapes here. It was just done this year, and I haven't started training them up the fence yet, but I think I've made 2 plantings, and I'm doing these about 10 feet apart. There's another one right over here. And then I planted jasmine, which I guess doesn't really climb. It has to be trained, but it seems to be doing okay. And like I said, based on the wetness, unless there's some other disease or something, we should be able to establish these. And I've got to do some research on what's evergreen and what's deciduous. But the real champion for this year is passion fruit, passion flower. When I bought it, I mean, it was probably up to about, I don't know, not even halfway up this first fence. As you can see, the fence goes higher, but we are at this level here. I can probably take this branch and jump it up to the next, but it looks like it's going to take off. I had planted passion flower a few years ago. It was a small plant. Within a week, caterpillars had landed on it and ate every leaf off of it. And then I was looking at how it's almost an invasive here in Texas because it takes off so good. So that's kind of getting excited about that. The problem is, look at the amount of fence I've got. I mean, I think this is about 330 feet long, and we've got fences on both sides. So, and then the side walls, so we're probably 900 feet of fencing. That's what makes the Mustang grape so exciting. And I do want to talk about something in this food forest. This whole thing was a terrace. Let me walk down here. The idea of this being a food forest started out as a terrace. This whole food forest was sculpted to take water all the way at my house, water coming down, culverts it down this way into this terrace. The slope of the terrace is a drop about 1 foot every 50 feet. And the water actually flows down this terrace, exits, and then enters my pond systems. And my biggest problem with it is the inability to mow. And I know a lot of y'all will probably say, hey, keep it natural, you don't need to mow. But these are hitchhikers. You can see the white flowers, they turn in these hitchhikers, the little seeds that stick to your jeans, to your socks, to everywhere. And when you come back in, you got to take your pants off and just peel them off. So the slope of it is not conducive to mowing. You can see where I kind of kamikazed here. So that's one regret about this and turning it into a food forest, because if I would just left it unfenced, this would look like what you see on the other side of the fence because of the cow traffic. But because of the cow traffic, every one of these trees I planted, and there's probably 100 of them in here, they would have all had to been fenced. So my logic was, let's just do one fence and fence the whole thing. Like I said, it protected the trees from the cows and the deer, but it doesn't allow me to maintain the grasses very well. So that's just an observation. If you're trying to do something like this, you know, a lot of people, even like with swales, they burn it so high you can't mow it. And just got to be reasonable about it, guys. I mean, if it's going to look like this and you don't want to walk through it, I mean, I don't want to walk through this. It's all hitchhiker stickers. I mean, it's just crazy. So you got to kind of have to be a realist about it. And a lot of times I'll maybe mow just once a year. I'm not a big fanatic on mowing either, but you got to make it where it's doable. I guess I'll add in on the lower side, when I first started the Greenwall project, I focused on the bottom side, and this was in that time where we had that cycle of 2 years of drought, and not just 90 days of no rain, but we were hitting temperatures of 111 degrees Fahrenheit. And everything I planted, I mean, I focused on this bottom row, and here is where I had you call it an arbor, and I had these visions of, you know, grape clusters hanging down here. I mean, imagine this being a Greenwall, kiwi, grapes, stuff like that hanging down. That would be awesome. Even annuals like cucumbers and stuff. And I tried it all and had very little success. In fact, we'll see what did survive. I mean, the king is asparagus, because this has received no maintenance at all. I mean, I planted it and walked away, and it's working well. And the reason I planted down here was because with that terrace moving water slowly, the water is going to soak in and come down here, and that's why I thought this was the first place to start. And then kind of abandoned it and went back to the high side. But like I said, I was lucky because it was wet years. But the high side is what gives me privacy from people driving down. I mean, once you get to this side, I mean, it's just the cows. Okay, so we have asparagus. Here's a rose, and the type rose is, I don't know the name of it, but it's the one that produces big hips. And I thought it had died, but it came back. And I did have some deer pressure. Deer were getting underneath the gate, and until I figured out where they were coming from, I had to come back and do fences inside the fence. So everywhere I've got this double fence is somewhere where I planted something. I mean, here's another one where nothing that I planted survived. Anywhere I've got a conduit here is where I put a grape. Also did some on a trellis. When I was mowing, I took out that tree right there. Wasn't happy about it. But look at the height of the grass. I mean, it's hitchhiker weeds and Johnson grass. Here's another area where I planted. Would have been grapes and some miscellaneous other stuff. And then, like I said, looking at where I can't mow, just the hitchhikers. I mean, I can't express enough how the weed situation is a big deal. I mean, look at this. And a viewer had asked about the terrace flowing during my rain event. I mean, honestly, if I would have came down and filmed it, you wouldn't have seen it because of all this vegetation in here. Let me go back to another thought. So originally this was when the water flowed through here, it was just a little bitty, like 6-inch wide, 1/2 inch water flow that was just barely flowing down through here real slow. And I wasn't confident I was getting enough soak in from that. So this was my first waffle experiment. I dug out waffle holes, you know, maybe about 12 feet long, left a dam or a high spot in between. So now during the rain, the water had to fill this waffle, then overflow, go to the next one, overflow, and go to the next one. But it left a big 4 to 6 inch body of water that has to soak in, that was hopefully pushing down to this fence line. I don't think I've ever showed this tree. I don't know the name of it, a Palo Verde maybe. I mean, y'all guys would know. But we've seen these over at the coast, and I know they're good for drought, but this whole part of the terrace is like the thinnest soil and no water. It gets the least amount of water of the whole terrace system. So we planted that, and then we had a mesquite come up naturally, so I left it there. And then, like I said, no water or anything to it, and it's holding up. Anyway, just a little peek at my terrace for 2026. Understand the mowing thing. It's a problem. And it's hours of heat exhaustion to try to get in here with a weed eater or a scythe or something like that. It's just a lot of work. Just my only thing is, whether it's a swale with a berm or anything like this, keep in mind, if you build it where you can't mow it, this inevitably is what's going to happen, especially if you don't have animals on it. All right, you guys take care.